And hey, how's it going, everybody? This is the one and only the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders, and you're listening to Impact Showdown Radio live right now on blogtalkradio.com and on Stitcher. That's right, you can now hear us live on Stitcher. We're also live at our sister website at InfinityOneProductions.com. Thank those of you that are checking out tonight's show on August 16th, 2012. During the next hour plus, feel free to interact with us as we get those of you who might have missed tonight's installment of Impact Wrestling. We'll get you caught up to speed. For the rest of you, you know what time it is. You know how we do it over here, offering you that honest breakdown and analysis, in-depth look without all the bias, one-way, negative way direction, mumbo-jumbo talk. You know how we do it over here. For those of you that would like to interact with us on the show, you know you can. You are always welcome, too. You can interact with us on Twitter, as we're on Twitter at InfinityOneProd, and we're on Facebook at Infinity One Productions. Of course, you can always call in as well, as we'll be opening up the phone lines in the later part of the show. But if you want to get that head start right now, feel free to go ahead, kick back, smile, and dial. Call us, 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. Just kick back, smile, and dial, and be heard live on the air when we open up the phone lines in the later part of the show. Fresh off of an impressive TNA Hardcore Justice pay-per-view over the weekend, 4 days removed from it, as we had got a new installment of TNA Impact Wrestling. A lot of questions had just came into mind as more answers needed to be solved or explained, or questions rather, whatever you want to call it. We just know that tonight's episode, we needed answers, and some of the answers we would finally receive as aces and eights, their connection to James Storm. Just what is it exactly? What is it that has the two of them together? You hear that name, and then you hear the other name. Just what's going on? Well, as we saw in those final minutes of Impact Wrestling, we know one thing for certain, and hopefully it has now silenced the entire TNA locker room, as one James Storm was really being looked upon as the one to be the ringleader behind those damn aces and eights who have for weeks now have been causing all types of mischief in the Impact Wrestling arena. They attacked the likes of the Icon Sting. They attacked the likes of the Immortal Hulk Hogan, even picking on his daughter, Baby Brooke Hogan, jumping the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, attacking Robert Roode, attacking the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Austin Aries, attacking TNA gut check contestant Sam Shaw. They just made their presence be felt all throughout these weeks, even making their presence felt on the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view, where they were looking to attack Jeff Hardy and Bully Ray. But both of those guys, they stood their ground, and they were looking for a fight, as eventually we would see Bully Ray would pick up 20 points in that tables match, as he had put Jeff Hardy through a table. Well, tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling, it would kick off with our TNA World Heavyweight Champion, still our TNA World Heavyweight Champion at that, the one, the incredible Austin Aries, who feels that he has finally, folks, silenced his critics, silenced the naysayers, that his win over Robert Roode at the Destination X pay-per-view was nothing more than a fluke. He feels that he has finally put all that to rest, as he can now finally focus on one task at hand, and that is determining who will he be facing at the Bound for Glory Series pay-per-view coming up in October. Well, we would see the Enigma one, Jeff Hardy, make his presence, which had a lot of eyebrows raised. I know mine was definitely raised, and it was so funny because just the other day I said to myself, how cool, how badass would it be to see Jeff Hardy and Austin Aries get it on in a one-on-one match? It would just probably be freaking phenomenal. I was actually saying this to myself a few days ago, so I just thought this was so perfect that Jeff Hardy, Austin Aries, they have a few words. I just thought this was a great piece right here where the two of these guys were interacting with one another. I thought it was also so funny that we had just talked about Jeff Hardy earlier last week, and I was talking about how it just seems like he's been kind of quiet as of late, really hasn't been utilized the way that he used to be in the past. Well, we would actually find out over the course of several days that he is being looked upon in very high regard from TNA management, from the talent. They love the turnaround that he's made within recent months. So, and as far as his contract goes, his contract is not to expire sometime until early 2013. So I don't know why a bad rumor had started that his contract was practically up for renewal this year. It's not going down until next year. But in either case, really nice to see these two guys interact with each other, as Jeff Hardy would reveal the reason why he is out there. He feels that Aces and Eights had cost him 20 points that he should have won in the tables match at Sunday's pay-per-view, and cost him possibly the right to face Austin Aries at the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, and he wants to do nothing more than have a match with the TNA champion. Austin Aries, he shares Jeff Hardy's sentiments, even says, hey, Jeff, have a feeling that if the two of us were put together in a match, one-on-one, we would tear the roof off of the place, no doubt about it. I would love it if I could face you at the Bound for Glory pay-per-view. Well, Bully Ray, Cavzilla, hashtag riding his Twitter machine, would come crashing the scene, and he would just throw a bunch of insults out there to Jeff Hardy, pointing out that James Storm is the one behind those damn Aces and Eights, and that when is Jeff Hardy going to get it through his thick skull that James Storm needs to be taken care of once and for all. All this talk about James Storm at this point in the beginning of the program, and we saw no appearance by James Storm to come out and defend himself, as Austin Aries, he would interrupt the bickering that was going back and forth between Bully Ray and Jeff Hardy and say, quite honestly, it doesn't really matter which one of you guys I'm going to face at the Bound for Glory pay-per-view. All I know is if you want to come and get this strap, you're going to have to go through me to get it. So, message sent loud and clear, as we don't even see a sign of the former TNA World Heavyweight Champion, the It Factor, Robert Roode. Well, right before this segment would come to an end, folks, we would get an appearance by the Aces and Eights via Titantron, as they have revealed that very soon they're going to be making a impact, so to speak, tonight. And apparently we have not seen the last of these guys, as they're really starting to become more and more vocal. That's right, folks. Aces and Eights, really, what is it that they have planned for tonight? Well, we would see them more than once throughout the night, as they sent out a tweet on Twitter saying, and I quote, "Our silence is coming to a close. Hashtag Impact Live." Now, they would release this tweet just about 14 minutes before Impact Wrestling came on the air. And Aces and Eights, they also had talked about luck and commitment they gave credit to Bully Ray, saying him being able to somehow pull a win in that tables match, despite the odds being stacked against him, was definitely a case of luck. But that sometime tonight they will be dishing out another Dead Man's Hand. That is their commitment for tonight. And, of course, all throughout tonight's episode, we saw a recap of that great pay-per-view from the Bound for Glory, the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view, as we saw Bound for Glory series matches that all had transpired. We saw 3 of them. We saw a ladders match, we saw a tables match, we saw a Falls Count Anywhere match where the participants that won those respected matches had ended up picking up 20 points. But tonight, we're pretty much in the semifinals, so to speak, as we're down to the wire. It looks like at this point, the top 5 people are definitely fighting to be the top 4 contenders to go into the next pay-per-view, which is going to be No Surrender, where finally, when all the dust has settled on that night, come September 9th, we'll finally know who is going to be the number 1 contender to face Austin Aries, Double A, at the Bound for Glory pay-per-view. And from there, folks, we saw our first match of the evening, which was a Bound for Glory series, as Samoa Joe took on Magnus. How fitting was this, as we saw 2 guys who were part of a pretty damn good dominant tag team at one point in TNA. They're going at each other head-to-head, as Magnus had cut a very interesting promo before this match had came about. He said that he has spent so much time with Samoa Joe that he knows the Samoan machine inside and out, that he knows his weaknesses, he knows how he thinks because he's admired him for many, many years, that Samoa Joe is one of the main reasons why he came into TNA in the first place. And by the sound of things, it really is coming off as if Magnus just might have Samoa Joe's number, at least so he thinks. Well, nice good talk from the 25-year-old, but it would not help him out, as Samoa Joe would defeat Magnus, and he would defeat him via pinfall. Mistake that Magnus kept making throughout this match. He was so under the impression that Samoa Joe was going to try to go for a submission hold. You know how Samoa Joe loves getting those submission holds. 10 points, really hard to catch up when you keep adding up those 10 points. Well, Samoa Joe, he actually switched up his game a little bit in this match tonight. As I just said, he would pick up the victory via pinfall, so he picked up 7 points. Now, for those of you that are keeping track at this point, that shot Samoa Joe straight up to 61 points, just below James Storm, who's still at that number 1 spot. Post-match is where it got a little interesting, though, because we see Samoa Joe, he's starting to take off his elbows, and he's walking up to the ramp area, and we see Magnus, who grabs a steel chair, and he tries to attack Joe from behind, but Joe manages to turn around in time, and there was a little bit of a brief delay there from Magnus, who seemed a little bit hesitant to attack Samoa Joe, but he did anyway. We would see Joe throw up his left arm in time. Looked like it had took a little bit of a damage there, as Samoa Joe, he's just looking on at Magnus like, what the hell? And Magnus, he is just looking at him, staring at him, just giving him this weird glare, evil glare. Now, we would see after that in a backstage pass, and for those of you that are not familiar with that, of course, in between commercial breaks, the action never stops. You can check out ImpactWrestlingChat.com. You can also check them out on Twitter and on YouTube. And if you want to interact with us without having those restrictions as far as sharing links and all that other good stuff, I highly recommend that you interact with us, everybody else that watches the Backstage Pass on YouTube, as the views are finally starting to pick up. It seemed like at one point the views on YouTube used to stay at around the 200 range. Well, now it's starting to slowly climb up, as now we saw at its highest peak at least about 425 people were viewing Backstage Pass. So it's definitely starting to catch on. But I bring up Backstage Pass for a reason, because after the action was done with Magnus and Samoa Joe, later on we would see Jeremy Borash have an interview, so to speak, with Magnus, asking what all that was that had happened in the ring. And pretty much Magnus didn't like the fact that after he lost to Samoa Joe post-match, Samoa Joe, he extended his hand out, and, no hard feelings type of way. And Magnus just was not appreciative of that. He thought that it was kind of juvenile to do that. And that was pretty much what I had took away from it. I know myself and a lot of people that were looking at this piece, we thought it was a little bit poorly executed. I know one person had pointed out, well, that's the whole point of this whole thing being behind the scenes, isn't it? It's okay if it's bad. Not when so many people are able to see it and it's still connected to the live show that we're seeing on Spike TV. You know, just because not that many people are going to be seeing it, or it's not going to be as popular as on cable TV or whatever, it doesn't mean you just say any old damn thing. You kind of want to bring your best A game, I would think. And with Magnus, though I understood what he was saying, the execution, it was just really kind of sloppy. I don't even think they should have went with that for a backstage exclusive. They should have just scrapped that altogether. They could have really had it be a deal where Magnus could have just came out the very next week and he really could have gave a very damn good, solid explanation for why he did what he did. He could have had time to try to come up with a better delivery. Now, I still think that's going to happen next week because, fortunately there's not that many people that are catching on to that Backstage Pass. So still kind of somewhat of a little good experiment to see what works and what doesn't work for Magnus as far as what to say to kind of get the crowd going, kind of get that heat going. But from what he said in the Backstage Pass, definitely it wasn't enough of a heat draw, if you will. It actually had a lot of people kind of chuckling and saying next. Moving right along now, we see in another backstage segment, we see Madison Rayne, who is celebrating her victory at Hardcore Justice as Miss Killer Queen, is the new Knockouts champion, of course. And she points out how she sent Brooke an email about cake and balloons and all kinds of really cool stuff that she wants in the ring for tonight. Now, this is where it got a little interesting, and I definitely want to just take a pause right here. And this message is a shout-out, a big shout-out to those of you that were watching Impact Wrestling tonight. And I know Zed and myself, mainly Zed, we were definitely interacting with some of you TNA Wrestling fans tonight as we were getting ready to come on the air. Did you guys notice the creepy little short white guy with glasses that walked up to Madison Rayne and said, Brooke Hogan needs to see you in the ring right now? Did you all notice that guy by chance? If you weren't really paying attention, it's okay, because after all, you were looking at a hot chick in Madison Rayne. At least I think she's hot in a cute little diabolical type of way. If you weren't really paying attention to that guy, it's cool, but I just happened to notice all this, and I got a little bone to pick, okay? Here's my bone tonight. This is the same guy who was being looked for a couple of weeks back when he delivered that yellow envelope to Aces, from Aces and Eights to Brooke Hogan when she was in the office with Sting, giving Stinger an update about how her dad was doing, and this guy just comes in. I was told to give this to you, and then once Brooke opens it up and it's revealed to be the Aces and Eights calling card, we see Sting try to catch this guy, but the guy's already long gone. Now, if I'm not mistaken, now I have to do a little research, but, you know, I don't forget a face, so that's why I was able to just remember this guy instantly. Now I'm kind of thinking to myself, wait a minute, couldn't this possibly have been the same guy that also dropped off this envelope when Hulk Hogan was last seen talking with the Stinger in his office? Because I kind of remember a guy looking very close to this guy I just described deliver a yellow envelope. So I'm kind of saying to myself, if I have somebody deliver a yellow envelope and it's the Aces and Eights calling card, the first thing I'm going to do is sit up and question the guy that is giving me this envelope, and the first thing I'm going to do is sit up and say, are you on our freaking payroll? Prove that you're on our payroll. Let me see some ID so I can talk to somebody in accounting or something, or talk to upper management just to verify the credentials, right? That way I know whether or not this guy is actually legit and on the freaking payroll. He has a right to be on company grounds. Now, if it turns out the guy is legit, then the next thing would be to sit up and say, okay, who gave you this envelope? How did you come across it? That would be the next move, right? Makes a lot of sense, don't it, folks? If you really think about it. So I just kind of thought that was a little bit weird there, that we had this guy sit up and he just quietly just goes unnoticed. I'm like, wow, really? But moving right along, yeah, we see Madison Rayne. She go down to the ring, and she's just basically giving her post-celebration speech, and she would say all this wouldn't have been possible without her man, Earl Hebner, who she invites to come on down to the ring. Well, baby Brooke Hogan, she would come down to the ring, and she would reveal, and this should make a lot of people happy, especially for those that were calling into last week's Impact Showdown Radio and calling into the TNA Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. This should make them very happy, as we would see Brooke Hogan take control of what all has been transpiring within recent weeks of Earl Hebner helping Madison Rayne get victories, as Brooke would reveal that from here on now, referee Earl Hebner will no longer be calling knockout matches. That's right. And Ms. Tessmacher has invoked her rematch clause for tonight and will take on, that's right, Madison Rayne for the strap. But it gets even better. We see a special guest referee is going to be made for this match, and it is a she. So this has a lot of buzz going. This had a lot of people sitting up saying, oh, who could it possibly be? Could it possibly be maybe Molino? And I saw this name actually being thrown out there more than once by a few people. I saw Velvet Sky's name being thrown out there. I saw Angelina's Love's name being thrown out there. Who else? I actually even saw Lita's name being thrown out there, and I'm thinking to myself, if it was a mainstream name like that, TNA would have created a little bit more buzz, I think. Well, in this rematch for the Knockouts Championship, we would find out who the special guest referee was, and it would be no other. And you know what? Brooke Hogan, she really tried. She tried her damnedest to sell this girl, but you know what? It just was not happening, folks. As it would turn out, the special guest referee would be no other than Taryn Terrell. Now, that name may sound a little bit familiar to you guys. That's because she used to work in the WWE performing under the ring name Tiffany. Now, she also used to be married to WWE superstar Drew McIntyre. Now, word on the wrestling beat is that the two of them, they were married, and things didn't quite work out so well. Apparently, there was some type of a altercation that had happened between her and Drew, I believe, on WWE property. Basically, in a nutshell, and this isn't what we're saying, this is what we've been able to gather, pretty much Tiffany had beat the crap out of Drew McIntyre, and they basically suspended her for a little bit, and then they had decided, as she was suspended, they were just going to go on ahead, cut ties with her. So she's been done with Rogue Wrestling Entertainment since 2010. So if you kind of really think about it, especially you Drew McIntyre fans, remember how popular he was right around then and how cold he had went after all this stuff had happened. Well, unfortunately, word on the beat is that Drew McIntyre getting his ass beat by his wife, that kind of hurt his value a little bit, so to speak. So that's why you saw him in those unfortunate story angles, dealing with Hornswoggle, not being able to pick up a win. That's why you saw him going through all that bull crap. But yeah, so we saw Taryn Terrell make her TNA debut, and she was a referee for this match. And quite honestly, I got to be brutally honest, there was a time where I stopped watching ECW. I think I stopped watching ECW once Joey Styles left, because I said to myself, okay, well, if you're not going to have Joey Styles in it anymore, then, what's really the point of watching? And I think right around that time I stopped watching. I think Bobby Lashley had also coughed up the ECW belt when he got drafted over to Raw. So like around that time when we had the Joey Styles leaving ECW and Bobby Lashley got drafted over, I kind of stopped watching ECW. So to my knowledge, apparently she had made her debut, so to speak, on there, and she just was somewhat of a on-screen character since. I believe at one point she was even the ECW general manager. I just know I had stopped watching. So, I mean, really, I just kind of blinked when I heard this name. And I don't know about you guys, but I know when I first heard this name, as she was announced as a special guest referee and she's coming down to the ring, did you all notice the crowd that were in attendance? I mean, it was dead as a freaking doornail. People weren't even really like... It was kind of like, she's cute. They really weren't sure who the hell she was. And I love how Mike Tenay and Taz, they are just trying to do their best to sell her as she's coming down to the ring, but it just wasn't working. Well, we would see Miss Tessmacher win the TNA Knockouts title to create a WTF moment for a lot of people. I know I was definitely one of the first people to say WTF. I'm seeing this and I'm saying to myself, okay, wait a minute here. If we have Miss Tessmacher get back the Knockouts title on television, then what the hell was the point of having her lose the belt at the pay-per-view this past Sunday in the first place? And I definitely want to hear what you all have to say in regards to this, because I definitely thought that this was a really weird move. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how upset I was when I had saw this, because as soon as I saw this go down, I'm saying to myself, wait a minute now. I picked Miss Tessmacher to win at the pay-per-view. Okay? Madison Rayne hasn't even been champion for a week. Okay? She doesn't even have 5 days under her belt, and she loses it on the first episode of Impact Wrestling, fresh off of the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. it made me kind of mad to the point I definitely want to hear what you guys think, but, I'm coming off of a pretty decent record for the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. I only had messed up with 3 matches. The Knockouts matches is one of them, but I don't know, folks. This is where I kind of need your help because I'm kind of saying to myself, well, wait a minute here. If Tessmacher is getting the belt back, then technically didn't I call it right? Didn't I say Tessmacher was going to remain champion, or is this a case of, no, she actually lost the belt. Unfortunately, it has to stand. I definitely want to hear what you guys think when we open up the phone lines later on in the show. But I just thought this was really weird right here, folks. Very poorly, just a WTF. I just was just saying to myself, if this was ultimately what was going to happen, then, Tessmacher should have went over. I don't get the logic behind having Madison and Rayne be the champion, not unless maybe something weird had went down. I don't know if maybe Madison and Rayne might be in some type of contract negotiations maybe, and there was some type of a fallout, or maybe she has some type of an emergency and, she has to eventually take off for a little while. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully we can find out a little bit more within the coming days what had happened. Of course, we'll definitely be staying on top of this, let you guys know what all we are able to find out as soon as more information becomes available. But let's go on ahead now and let's continue with the rest of the card for tonight. One of the other highlights that we had saw was another Bound for Glory series match as AJ Styles had defeated Christopher Daniels, and there was so much at stake in this match as AJ Styles would say to Daniels, hey, look, if I beat you, then not only do I pick up some Bound for Glory series points, but I also win the right to have a paternity test. Now, if Daniels were to win this contest, then AJ Styles would have no choice but to recognize the baby that Claire Lynch is going to be having as his own. So the stakes could not be any higher. They had to run it through the Icon Sting, and he did approve of it. And, folks, originally we had saw Daniels win this match with an assist from Kazarian, but smart referee Brian Hebner, he had kind of got a weird vibe that maybe something was going on outside of the ring, as we had saw Kazarian hold on to AJ Styles' foot as it was on the ropes while Daniels went in for a pin, and we would see Kazarian kind of crutch down a little bit waiting for his cue to leave the arena, but Brian Hebner, he would look over the ropes, he would see Kazarian, and he would reverse the decision and have the match continue. Well, as Daniels is trying to argue with the referee, we would see AJ Styles connect with that Pele kick to pick up the win. So, AJ Styles, he definitely was able to move up the board just a little bit, and he was also able to pick up able to pick up some points, and of course he was able to pick up that win there with regards to the baby paternity test. So it's just a matter of time now before finally we hopefully see him and Claire Daniels Kazarian on an episode of Maury, where it will hopefully finally be announced that AJ Styles is not the father, so we can see Claire Lynch run her stupid ass running into the backstage area. But in either case right there, let's move right along, folks, as from there we also saw Jeremy Borash interact with Kazarian in a backstage pass moment, as that was a pretty cool little segment right there, as we saw Kazarian talk about how most of the TNA fans that were in the wrestling chat room were sitting up going on Craigslist looking for booty. So we had Jeremy Borash who sat up and was like, what do you mean our TNA wrestling fans are going around looking for hookers? And we would hear Kazarian go, I didn't say anything about hookers. I was talking about booty, cash money. like shows where your mind is, JB. So really fun little jab right there. It was a nice little brief little comedy skit right there. Definitely was one of the main highlights of the night. As of course, one of the main questions that had been asked immediately after the conclusion of Hardcore Justice, after seeing Robert Roode lose to Austin Aries, was what is next for the former It Factor of professional wrestling? What is in store for the future of the former TNA World Heavyweight Champion? Well, we would see Robert Roode come down to the ring, and he would address those concerns and point out that he looks in the mirror and he has come to the conclusion, as far as people to blame, he's not accepting responsibility. No. He is pointing the finger at everybody else, and he is pointing that finger at Austin Aries. He's pointing that finger at Sting. He's pointing that finger at the TNA wrestling fans. But Robert Roode would leave the ring speechless after saying pretty much the next thing that he's going to do, now that he is no longer able to compete for that TNA World Heavyweight title, is, and he just could not figure out the right words to say, as we would see Robert Roode drop the microphone on the ground and he would leave the ring. I think that is a great moment right there. That is so cool how they pulled that off with Robert Roode. They're still keeping him relevant. They're still keeping him in the loop, even though he is no longer having anything to do with the big title picture. I just think it's really cool how they're keeping him relevant. It's almost a reverse type of role when you think about it, because just think back to when James Storm had lost the World Heavyweight title to Robert Roode a while back, and then he was slowly beginning that climb back into the main event picture, and things didn't quite work out the way that they did, and then eventually we saw James Storm kind of lose his confidence a little bit, and he really wasn't sure what to do, and he started questioning himself, spending more time on his ranch, just being away from everything. I like how it's kind of taken a reverse role right here, only it's got a little twist to it for Robert Roode. I'm definitely curious what's going to come the next following weeks. Hopefully, maybe we could see Robert Roode kind of figure out some type of way to get his mojo back and try to figure out what to do next. And I've been saying it for the past couple of weeks now, Robert Roode, TNA. Let's see it happen. Let's see Robert Roode go for that television title. I think that's the next best thing right there. I just don't see him doing the X Division. I don't see him doing that for some weird reason. I think that's kind of in the past. I think if there was ever a time to do that, it would have been maybe 3-4 years ago. I think right now, though, that TV title is starting to look pretty damn good right about now. Let's see what happens with that. And, of course, we also got to talk about one of the other main highlights that we had saw for tonight, as we had saw Bully Ray take on the Enigma, Jeff Hardy, in another Bound for Glory series match. Now, with this match, we did eventually see Jeff Hardy pick up a surprising win via pin over Bully Ray, but Jeff Hardy was not able to celebrate this victory, as pretty soon he had immediately got attacked by Bully Ray. Now, that would not be the only thing we would see. Now, keep in mind, James Storm was at ringside for this match, because in a backstage segment, he said to Jeff Hardy that he was going to have his back as he took on Bully Ray. As Jeff Hardy, he had a few heated words to say to the Cowboy, as well, as he was not trying to believe the rumors that were floating around that James Storm could possibly have something to do with the Aces and Eights. And it just kind of seemed like James Storm was trying to make the best out of the situation and just basically trying to be there for Jeff Hardy, who, again, we would see him pick up the win, but we would see Bully Ray attack him as James Storm is looking on. He tries to get in the ring and try to come to the aid of Jeff Hardy, but we would see those damn aces and eights come up from behind, and they're all looking at the Cowboy, James Storm. And James Storm, he finally turns around, and what happens? We see the Cowboy get attacked by those damn aces and eights. That just finally puts a bookend on that saga, as now it really looks like they definitely do not have anything to do with the Cowboy. We would also see aces and eights almost make an impact by attacking Brooke Hogan, as at one point we had saw Brooke Hogan just before that match that she had where she lost the Knockouts title to one Miss Tessmacher. We saw Madison Rayne sit up and tell Brooke to come on down to the ring and tell her to her face what all she's going to be doing. And Brooke Hogan did come down to the ring, but we would see Madison Rayne, Earl Hebner, they would quickly leave the ring, which had aces and eights just pop up from out of nowhere, and they were about to attack Brooke when we would see Austin Aries, Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, Sting all come down to the ring to come to the aid of Brooke, and they would also send out a challenge to aces and eights. And next week is another installment of Open Fight Night. That's right, where you can pretty much call out anybody, and that other person has no choice but to accept that challenge. Well, we would see the Icon Sting send out a challenge to aces and eights to meet them in the ring at the top of the hour next week at the 8 o'clock hour at the start of the show. Later on, we would see that aces and eights, they would accept that challenge. We would also hear that the immortal one, Hulk Hogan, will be returning to Open Fight Night to come to the aid of his brother Sting, as it appears that they will be joined by Austin Aries, Bully Ray, Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle, as they take on this team of the aces and eights. So we really have a jam-packed Open Fight Night that's going to be coming our way next Thursday night, which should definitely prove to be an explosive one. I know the mystery is still up there in the air, though, as far as who could possibly be behind the aces and eights. Well, I was looking at one of the guys, and in particular, it was the guy that had the dirty blonde long hair. And I just took a look at his eyes, and I swear to you, I've seen the eyes somewhere before. Now, I'm not reaching out here. I just was able to look at the eyes just like that. I think one of the guys is Chuck Palumbo. I seriously think one of the guys is Chuck Palumbo. I'm very curious to know what color is Chuck Palumbo's hair right now. But I swear to you, the guy that had the long blonde hair, and you guys know the segment that I'm talking about, as at one point we had saw aces and eights. They were sitting around the table talking, and we saw one of the guys with the dirty blonde long hair kind of put his hand on the guy that's really been talking the entire time. I guess he's their ringleader. You look into his eyes, and if you guys have it on DVR, if you guys are able to catch it on YouTube a little later, just freeze that image right there where you see that guy with the long, dirty blonde hair pop up, and just look at the eyes. I swear to you, the guy looks like Chuck Palumbo. So I'm definitely going to have to do a little bit of research on that and, see if I can figure out something. But I think I might be on to something right there. The other guy, the ringleader, I started thinking about it, and it brings up a very cool thing that I'm going to do for you guys this weekend. We're going to actually do a really cool article for you guys. It's something that hasn't been done to our knowledge, so we're going to be one of the first to do it. And it's halfway done. We're going to have it probably uploaded on our website over the weekend, which is a who's who of who we think might be behind the whole aces and eights. And I gave you one name right there. I'm more than happy to give you one more name. Now, this might be really jumping out there, but I don't know. I just got this weird vibe for some reason that maybe Conan could possibly be behind the Aces and Eights? I mean, just think about the guy that's been talking all this time. He's got a little short, stocky build. Look at the neck. Kind of look at the way the head is shaped. Kind of look at the way he's wearing his clothes. There's only one other guy that I could think of that used to dress like that when he was wrestling in Impact Wrestling, and that was Conan. So I don't know if maybe Conan's retired. I know a little while back he had to have a new kidney or whatever like that. But, you know, I'm very curious what's going on with Conan nowadays. I know he has a radio show, but I'm very curious if he's still wrestling, because if he is, you know, that kind of makes a little sense. But then again, Conan wouldn't necessarily have to be wrestling. Conan could just be a freaking on-screen character. He could just be a freaking mouthpiece that's just really driving home Aces and Eights. But if you really kind of think about it, you'll kind of see and appreciate why I put his name out there. That just gives you a taste of some of the names that we're working on as far as who we think might be behind the whole Aces and Eights. But I would have to say tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling, definitely a very strong one. I definitely enjoyed this just a little bit more than the episode that we had saw last week. I guess I kind of really enjoyed it more because we didn't have too many backstage skits. We didn't have any ODB, Eric Young. We didn't have Claire Lynch pop up. None of that silly crap. It was just pretty much dealing with the fallout from the pay-per-view and its participants. I was kind of digging that. I kind of like that. Very curious to see how they continue doing in the weeks to come, as right now it is really crunch time for TNA Wrestling. I mean, this month going into the end of September, they really have a lot at stake right now. And if you're a TNA Wrestling fan, you definitely want to root on for them. And some of you may be a little bit curious why I kind of sound a little bit concerned about TNA Wrestling. I'll definitely tell you the reasons why and also get you caught up on the latest in TNA Wrestling news when we come right back from commercial break. So we're going to go on ahead. We're going to take a brief commercial, come right back. We'll jump into some more TNA Wrestling-related news. And, of course, we'll open up the phone lines, get you all's calls, see how you all had enjoyed tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling tonight. So hang tight. We'll be coming right back, folks.
Tired of those wrestling websites that give you redirects, spyware, weird pop-ups? How about those misleading headlines? Instead of hitting the keyboard in frustration, why not visit InfinityOneProductions.com? Infinity One is the source for wrestling-related news and so much more without all the hassle. Visit InfinityOneProductions.com. Your keyboard will thank you.
Hey guys, Lee Sanders here with the RCWR Show, and I'd like to take this time out to tell you about one or two quick apps that I think you should check out when you get a free moment. First app I'd like to recommend to you is the app from Stitcher. Now, Stitcher allows you to be able to play all our episodes of the RCWR Show and Impact Showdown on your portable devices, such as an Android phone, Kindle Fire, iPad, you name it, it'll be able to play it. So definitely highly recommend that you check that out. It's available for free in the App Store. Stitcher, new and smart way to play radio. Also, another cool app that I'd like to recommend to you all is a new app that came out not too long ago from Apple. That's right, Apple has recently come out with a free podcast app. Now, this app is really cool, folks, because after we are done doing our shows, all you have to do is just subscribe to our episodes. And you can do this by downloading this new free podcast app. All you have to do, visit the App Store on your iPhone or iPad and just search podcast. Once the app is downloaded, you can then type in the name of our shows, the RCWR Show and Impact Showdown, and you'll be able to subscribe. It's that easy. So you have two cool free apps that you can check out and take all our episodes with you on the go. So get to it already.
we're back. You're listening to a new episode of Impact Showdown Radio, live on blogtalkradio.com and at our sister website at infinityoneproductions.com. Hey, if you drive and you're on the road, hey, you can also listen to us through a really cool app from Stitcher. That's right. You listen to us on Stitcher live as well. So make sure that you check those out. And, hey, for those of you that just so happen to be listening to the show from Stitcher and you're in your car and you're trying to call into the show, just do me a favor. We just want to make sure that you get home in one piece. Make sure that you're talking to us with a headless Bluetooth for your safety and other people on the road. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you appreciate that. Programming note. The weekend edition of the RCWR show will not be airing this Saturday. It will make its long-awaited return next Saturday. Now, in its place this Saturday, we will have another installment of our Call That Match series, as this time around I'm going to be offering my match predictions for WWE Summerslam, as I am still coming fresh off of a undefeated streak with calling the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, as I had all my winners right on the money. I picked it damn good. Can I make lightning strike twice for a WWE pay-per-view? Well, you definitely want to tune in and find out. You can hear that RCWR Call That Match special covering WWE SummerSlam live this Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Really cool thing here. You could be a part of our remixed edition of that Call That Match special, as we'll be uploading it to YouTube for our YouTube subscribers. You can be a part of that remixed version, and this is how you can do it. All you have to do is submit us your picks via video. You can do it via YouTube. Look us up on the RCWR show. That's our channel. You can also tout your video response to us. We're also on tout. We're still getting the hang of that a little bit, but you can hit us up on there, on tout. We're at the RCWR show. Make your video replies 2 minutes or less. Can't stress it enough. If you want to be part of that remix version that we do, make your video pics be 2 minutes or less. You can also be a part of the remixed edition just by simply submitting your match picks via Twitter. And if you're on point, we'll definitely give you love. We'll give you a shout-out when we air the RCWR Post Show live immediately after the WWE SummerSlam pay-per-view, as we'll be covering the fallout and get you all's reactions. That is going to be airing this Sunday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 Pacific. So good luck to you. Make sure you have those videos polished off. Make it be on point. You have until this Saturday evening at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, to turn in your video replies before we start doing the remix version for YouTube. So best of luck to you. So, yeah, we were talking about TNA Wrestling in the last segment, and I was telling you guys about how I have great concern for TNA Wrestling finishing out this month strong, definitely finishing out the month of September strong. And here's the reason why. Now, for those of you that are not aware, TNA Wrestling, their last episode of Impact that aired last week, it did very poorly. I mean, it did so bad, it was probably the second worst rating that TNA Wrestling has had this year. Now, for those of you that might have not caught those ratings, it was a .083, if I'm not mistaken, or a .084. That's not really good, considering that they were going into the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view when you really think about it. Now, the only other time that the ratings were that bad was when they first had the DirecTV Viacom dispute early back in July. and that had gave them, the first worst rating of the year. So to have another one pop up, I mean, we have seen some columnists go so bold as to say that TNA Impact, it needs to just stop being live. It needs to go back to being pre-taped, that it really has no legs right now, that the idea was kind of cool to have it be live, but now when reality really starts sinking in, it just kind of looks as if it really does not have any legs, that it's not going to be able to make it. Now, I thought about this as soon as I was hearing all this information, and I read some of these people's columns about TNA Wrestling just needs to stop being live. And I could appreciate the argument. I could understand where they're coming from. And, I do have great concern for TNA Wrestling because, as we all know, those of us that pay attention to ratings, we pay attention to what's going on TV at the time, we all can agree on one thing. When September drops, it's the hottest time for television because everybody and their mama make their season premieres, new shows premiere. Everybody is just coming back. And when it comes to those comedies, when it comes to that prime time slot, I mean, remember how NBC used to be back in the 90s? They had that whole must-see TV and all that other good stuff going on. I mean, Thursday nights, if there was ever a night to be kicking back during 8 to 10 and watching some really good TV, it's definitely going to be at that time. And no matter how many years have gone by, Thursday nights, 8 to 10, it's always the case. So TNA Wrestling, they have some serious competition right now that's going to be coming to them come September. Now, this month, they're a little bit okay. Now, we saw the return of NFL preseason. I know we have a lot of people that will probably sit up and say, preseason football, I don't really care about that. The games don't really mean anything. They're just testing out the first string, second string, third string. They're trying to figure out who's going to be on the official roster. I don't really care about that. But you got those hardcore football fans. And I know because we are right here in the nation's capital. We're just beyond the river from them. And we got those hardcore fans that love their Washington Redskins. We got people over here in Maryland, of course. They love their Baltimore Ravens. You say preseason, they are all over it. They will treat that daggone thing like it's a playoff game, okay? Unfortunately, that's how serious we got a lot of football fans. So there's their first competition right there. And then the next month, we pretty much got regular season football. So you take that combined with NFL doing Thursday night games, which I kind of really didn't, I can't really grasp my brain around that. I'm used to Monday night and Sunday night. I'm still trying to catch on to this whole Thursday night football, but they got some serious competition right there. And then a couple of weeks after that, we're going to have the NBA return. That's going to be in preseason before the regular season starts. I mean, there's going to be some serious competition ahead, and if there was ever a time for TNA Wrestling to have some very strong, solid ratings, they got to finish this month strong. They got to finish out September strong, since Spike TV has given the green light for them to be extended through the end of September, I believe. So, if you were to ask me honestly, what ratings do I think they need to be pulling to even be taken seriously to keep its slot during this fall, I would have to say they have to keep it at least a 1.02 and up. They got to at least keep that, at least a 1.01 and up. They can't keep seeing these type of low numbers like this, because if you think about it, it's almost mirroring back to how they were before they went live. So this is really crunch time right now, and if they don't get the job done, then I just have the strangest feeling that one experiment that Spike TV could take is remove its live status, but let it keep its time slot just to see if maybe it can still hold some type of relevance in that time slot. Or they could end up pushing it to 9 a.m. I'm sorry, not 9 a.m., folks. I got my time frames mixed up. They could push it to 9 p.m. and have it be a 2-hour block right there. Very curious to see what's going to happen in the coming weeks. I still think they have a chance. Keyword, it's all about marketing. If there was ever a time to have Hulk Hogan, to have Sting, to have Kurt Angle all sit up and say, look, you guys got to be watching Impact Wrestling. If you love it live, you want it to stay live, check it out each and every single week. Tell your mama, tell your friends. But you don't really see that happening, do you? Instead, you see Kurt Angle, who is making headlines, talking about how he felt that CM Punk disrespected him and TNA by calling it an indie promotion, and that CM Punk has apparently forgotten what it was like to be an indie wrestler. As Kurt Angle also points out that CM Punk was literally going from promotion to promotion begging for a job, while Kurt Angle was on top in the WWE, and that it was Kurt Angle's choice to leave WWE and his choice to come to TNA Wrestling. And he would also sit up and put some tweets out there asking fans if they would like to see an Angle versus Punk match and how he would beat his ass up. He would quickly take those tweets down, but not before a few people had taken the liberty of saving them and recirculating them around the wrestling community. So Kurt Angle, unfortunately, now kind of has his foot in his mouth there a little bit. We would also sit up and hear some pretty good news from Eric Bischoff, as apparently there is going to be a Hardcore Pawn spinoff. That's right. How is this even possible? I mean, how can you do a new Hardcore Pawn series when we still got one of the most popular ones with the Les Gold family? I like Detroit Hardcore Pawn. Well, Eric Bischoff is going to be working with True TV to produce a new Hardcore Pawn series. It's going to be Hardcore Pawn Chicago. So very curious to see how they're going to be able to do that. I think they might be on to something if they have the right cast of characters. I'm a Chicago native. I know how rough the streets are in Chicago. I mean, that series, it has a lot of potential. They just got to get the right people. So definitely wish all the best of luck to Eric Bischoff. I think he's probably going to be doing a pretty good job right there. At least so we hope, folks. At least so we hope. And also, I don't know if you guys are action figure collectors or wrestling figure collectors, but if you go to WrestlingFigures.com, or you also go to Ringside Collectibles, those are two really cool sites I recommend for you serious hardcore wrestling collector fans. Apparently, there is a new Austin Aries action figure that is now available for shipping. You can pick it up at ringsidecollectibles.com. I saw it. It looks pretty cool. It's got him with his little pink little sweater vest thing that he used to be pushing when he was the X Division champion. And for those of you that are wondering which belt does he come with, sorry, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer for him with that TNA World Heavyweight title. Right now he's pushing the X Division title. But hopefully, though, maybe make another version, or maybe you could jack it off of Robert Roode. There you go. Save you some money and some trouble right there. So definitely check that out. And also, more mystery is starting to come unraveled from one Claire Lynch. Now, as you all know, we have reported on last Thursday night's Impact Showdown Radio all the information that we had knew about Claire Lynch. Well, it would be revealed just how exactly TNA had came across the actress portraying Claire Lynch, real name Julia Riley, this week, as it turned out that she actually lives in the Orlando, Florida area. Of course, she's 36 years old, and it turns out she's been acting for 15 years. I don't know for who, but apparently she's been an actress for at least 15 years, and that TNA Wrestling, they had held auditions a few months ago for the Claire Lynch role, and that she was chosen mainly because of her residence in Orlando, Florida, which is where Impact Wrestling is taped. So you kind of figure TNA Wrestling, they just wanted to go ahead and knock out two birds with one stone there. They kind of wanted to go a little bit of that cheap route, but as that Rolling Stones song goes, you can't always get what you want. So in this case, it was a little bit of a bad move on their part. Hopefully, they're getting ready to wrap this story arc up. Maybe this is why we're now seeing what's happening with this whole Claire Lynch angle possibly being wrapped up. And I think that it's a very smart move by TNA Wrestling, because they definitely need to just finish this month, finish September strong, produce very good, strong shows. The fans, they let it be known they don't want to see that Jerry Springer crap. So get that out the way. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. You know, one other thing. We had all of these fans that were talking about how they were under the impression that this female wrestler was going to be returning tonight on Impact. That female wrestler was going to be returning. A lot of outside names, basically WWE-related names, was being thrown out there. Folks, I can't stress it enough. If you think that TNA Wrestling has money like that to go get a Lita, to go get a Sable, to go get a Melina, don't you think that if they had that type of money to put out there for those type of people, that they would have just been better off trying to hold on to the knockouts that they've been losing? It seems like month after month. Don't you think that would make a little bit more sense? Because let's be honest here, and for those of you that don't quite know, some of those women that I just named, they're very expensive to acquire. And at the top of that list, last we checked, is Melina, who wants a boatload of money for appearances alone. Now, I'm trying to remember my math offhand. I think she might want at least $5,000 or maybe close to $10,000 per appearance. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's happening right there. You know, I can't stress it enough. I know it would be really cool to see some of these other female wrestlers pop up in the organization, but I think right now any type of money that TNA Wrestling is able to get a hold of right now, they need to do their best to try to figure out how they can get back some of these knockouts that have left after not taking a pay cut. Furthermore, before all this even happens, the first thing that TNA Wrestling needs to do, Dixie Carter, Bruce Pritchard, Eric Bischoff, Hulk Hogan, hell, even Brooke Hogan, I think all of them really need to have a sit down, and they really need to figure out just what exactly does the future hold for the Knockouts division, you know, because if it really does have a future, then they need to figure out some type of a way to make a new commitment to that division. They need to figure out a way to really make it be as relevant as it was a couple of years back, because it just seems like within recent months it's just been kind of dying down a little bit. So they need to figure out first if they're going to be willing to have a renewed commitment to it. Once they do have that renewed commitment to it, then they need to figure out what are they willing to do financially while still staying within their means. So if they could pull all of those things off, then yeah, I mean, we're already hearing the buzz that Velvet Sky, supposedly she's very close to coming back into TNA Wrestling. We're also hearing that Angelina Love is possibly very close to coming back to TNA Wrestling. So, That's two big names right there. Hopefully they can come back, and when they do come back, hopefully they can receive a reignited push that they deserve, both of them, because, really within recent months, when you really think about it, they've kind of just been floating around. They really haven't been utilized the way that they should be utilized. That's pretty much going to do it. It's pretty much been a quiet week for TNA wrestling-related news, but that's just my 2 cents on that. Let's go ahead and let's now open up the phone lines, and we'll go ahead and we'll wrap up the show for tonight. Also give you some programming notes of some stuff that we have planned for you all this weekend, especially if you guys are TNA and WWE fans or just that occasional wrestling fan. We'll give you the 411. Kickback Smiling Dow. Call us 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. We're opening up the lines right now, so let's go on ahead and let's do it. We got Dave from the Michigan area. Dave, you're live, my friend.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good, bro.
Yeah, I think that backstage pass, it's them in a way too, because they had that great promo with Magnus, how him just talking about Samoa Joe and how he was overlooked in that match. That would have been a great segment to have on TV. A lot of people missed it.
You actually thought that was a great segment? I thought he was just babbling on there.
Well, he came off and told the story. Basically, he said that opens up a great storyline for a match for them, maybe at No Surrender. Because he's basically saying that I was disrespected by Joe. That's why I hit him. He was telling you why he hit him. He was telling the story and why. Instead of you get that, I would think they could actually have a really good match. But and that Frankie Kazarian was hilarious on there too. But to touch on what you were talking about with bringing in some of these other people from WE or these divas or whatever. I mean, with all the, I don't know if I was mentioning about Melina, would be interesting to see her on there. Because you look at all these people who have been let go, it's like, okay, well, they might be bringing in some new ones, other people, and we get Tiffany or whatever her name is now. But I was just like, okay, why waste the money? I understand the crossover appeal. She was just in a Will Ferrell movie, and they wanted to have people say, I had no clue who she was until someone told me on Twitter.
That was the same case for us because
I was like, who?
Because like when Zed was on Twitter and he was interacting with the Impact fans, he was like, who the heck is she? And they told her, and Zed looked at me. He's like, do you know who this person is? I'm like, vaguely. And then I heard how she used to be the ECW general manager. I'm like, well, go figure. I stopped watching ECW right around that.
Yeah. I mean, I started watching when Christian came in on that, but anyway, it was a different story.
Yeah.
But I think they could bring in some of these people. If she is asking for $10,000, I mean, they just brought Chavo in. Who knows how much he's asking? He could be up to 15 for coming in there. Then you got so many people there they're not even using. I mean, maybe only at the live events they're using them, but I mean, you have so many wrestlers that never even get on TV each week. That they could be using this money for something else. I mean, you don't see Hogan every week. You don't see Brooke every week. You don't see Mickey James every week. You didn't even see the X Division champion tonight, or the TV champion unless you watch Backstage Pass.
Yeah.
Which that was another hilarious segment, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean,
a little incoherent, that was, though. It was a little incoherent, though. I really couldn't make out what they were saying.
It was a little creepy, but it was funny. I'm just so disappointed on how, and forget about bringing anybody in. Start using some of this money for advertising, because if next month is really when it's going to start showing, which I think tonight will get a better rating. But they need to start using like the Jeff Hardys and Andersons and more, because they're recognizable characters. I think tonight was a okay show. But they need to, I think if they use some more of these guys correctly, instead of, tonight they used the show, it had a point to everything that was used. There was a point to everything they did tonight. I like that. Like on Raw, there wasn't really a point to Big Show and CM Punk. just to kill time.
Yeah, exactly.
Which there's a lot of stuff that TNA is doing right, but, well, maybe not really a lot, maybe some. But there's more stuff wrong with TNA than there is right with TNA right now.
Now, do you have reservations right now about the NFL season, underway and Spike TV?
It's not underway yet.
Yeah, I heard there's already a preseason. Yeah, I mean we're already.
I know there's a preseason, but what's the point of watching past the first quarter?
Yeah, but still, it brings up a very interesting point. Do you have concern for TNA Wrestling based off of the 2 low rating performances that they've had so far? And then they're trying to finish out this month strong, and then we got all those TV sitcoms returning in September, and they're in that prime time block. How do you feel as that TNA fan that likes the whole idea of them being live, and you like the fact that those dirt sheets, they aren't able to sit up and somehow figure out how to leak something out because the show's live? How do you make of that? Would you be a little bit sad to see Impact Wrestling get stripped of its live time slot?
I mean, yeah, because it's been good show. I mean, I do worry about the NFL, but I can also contribute last week. Mm-hmm. It was the last week of the Olympics, too. Mm-hmm. You could see a lot of people tuning in the last few days of the Olympics, checking that out. That could have something to do with it. Plus, preseason football was on last Thursday, I believe, anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could look at it like that, too. Or you can just say with the season coming up, everything returning in September, I mean, they might get hit, but the WWE is going to get hit as well.
Yeah,
I mean, Monday Night Football.
Right, but see, there's the difference between TNA and WWE, unfortunately, which is we got WWE that has been around for decades, and unfortunately TNA only has 1 decade under its belt, and it doesn't even have at least half the power of mainstream pull that WWE has. And I mean, folks, I don't want to get into talking about WWE wrestling-related news, but how the times have changed. I mean, anytime we got WWE that's working with Warner Brothers to do a new Scooby-Doo, a new Scooby-Doo movie, I mean, that lets you know that the frickin' times have changed. And I mean, they're going to, too, have their little effects dealing with the Monday Night Football, but they'll be able to take those little hits and, it's just because this is happening. You guys are established, though. You guys have your loyal fan base. TNA, let's be for real. Let's look at all the steps they've been doing to try to expand their fan base. They've been taking the little backstage pass. They've been trying to have people watch it on Twitter. They've been pushing the backstage pass on YouTube, pushing it on their website. I've seen a few TNA executive heads, backstage guys on tout. It looks like they're experimenting with it. They're trying to see if maybe what they could possibly do with it, right? We also see them pushing the whole Twitter envelope of interaction, but that's really it. Let's look at all the TNA wrestlers, right? I bet you won't find at least 10 TNA wrestlers right now that will sit up and say, hey, be sure to watch TNA Impact Wrestling live, blah, 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 blah. Because we're talking about advertising, right? Who better than Sting, Hulk Hogan, Kurt Angle? It seems like the only person that's actually even plugging TNA is freaking Dixie Carter.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. Now, let me ask you a question. Are you a Redskins fan?
No. I am a Baltimore fan. I am a New York Giants fan. Yeah, I care less about the Redskins.
Okay, I understand that. But if there's a Monday night or a Thursday night, one of your teams that you love are playing, will you switch and watch that game over wrestling?
Oh, no. I'm Batman. I'm watching like 3, 4, 5 different things. I got my big screen set up so I can see 5 images at the same time.
Now, see, I'll miss Raw to watch the Lions game. I know there's a Monday night game this year. there, so I'll be checking that out.
I don't know. You know what? Let me not kid. I love watching the Redskins take on the Cowboys. I don't know what it is. I guess it's the rivalry. I will watch that. I will watch the Giants. I used to love watching the Giants take on the Colts. I mean, it's obviously not going to be the same now that Peyton's gone.
Oh,
but maybe we can get the next best thing. I used to love watching Green Bay take on the Chicago Bears. Let me see one of those type of matchups, and I think honestly, I might blow up, that football game and have Raw be on the DVR.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, so you definitely kind of liked how Impact Wrestling was tonight, but you were a little bit
better.
Could have been better.
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to see some more wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe I thought, the thing with Bobby Roode really quick, I know you're almost going to wrap up.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. Why not have him, I don't know if they can do it or not, but why not have him bust out? I know they have 50 million titles as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Why not have him bring back the U.S. title?
Now that would be some controversy.
Yeah, exactly. TNA United States champion or something like that.
Let me pick on your brain.
World title.
Let me pick on your brain on one more thing. What was your takeaway from this whole Madison Rayne dropping the title to Tessmacher not even a week later?
Just to set up for one more match at No Surrender. And then like you have said, I see Gail Kim and Miss Tessmacher having a match at Bound for Glory. I just think it was just another way to get another match out of this. They could have saved it for No Surrender, which would probably been a better idea, but they wanted to get it over with quickly for some reason. But as long as that 15 girl wants to referee all those matches, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and thank you for that call, Dave, as always. With Tiffany, as long as she's just calling matches, that's it. I really don't want to see her wrestle. I don't know why. I just, I'm having flashbacks now to how her performance used to be the few times I had glanced at ECW. And I remember I wasn't really into what she was saying then. I doubt anything has changed in the 2 years that she's been gone. I hope I'm wrong. I'll give her the benefit of doubt. Maybe she's gotten better over time. I don't know. But all right, folks. Well, coming up this weekend, we got a very special episode of the RCWR show. Call that match special edition. I'm gonna be putting on my thinking cap, and I'm gonna give you my match predictions on who I think is gonna be winning at the WWE Summerslam pay-per-view. I'm still fresh off of my undefeated streak at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So we're going to see if I can go 2 for 2 with this one. And, of course, it all leads up to the RCWR Post Show coming live this Sunday immediately after the fallout from SummerSlam. We'll definitely get those of you that are not able to see the pay-per-view up to speed. It's going to be a really cool show. We're going to have a lot of fan reactions for that SummerSlam. Of course, one of the biggest matches that's got everybody talking is that Brock Lesnar versus Triple H. You definitely want to make sure that you tune in on that. And remember, if you want to share your match predictions with us, you have until Saturday evening, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, to turn in a video reply, 2 minutes or less, of your match predictions. You can send it to us on YouTube at the RCWR Show channel, and you can also send it to us on Tout. We're now on Tout. Look us up. We're at the RCWR Show. One other thing I would like to say before I go, we definitely got to give a special shout-out to a few people. Of course, we got to give a shout-out to our Stitcher family that continues to grow every single week. Remember, you guys that are listening on Stitcher, you can interact with us as well as we're live every single week. You can do so by calling into the show or hitting us up on Twitter at Infinity1Prod. Just remember, if you're in your car, though, do it safely. We want you heading home in one piece. Do continue to spread the good word to your friends, family. appreciated as always. And once again, we just have to take this time to thank the staff of Blog Talk Radio for featuring the RCWR Post Show covering the TNA Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. And we also want to take this time to thank you, the listeners, who made our Call That Match special covering the TNA Hardcore Justice pay-per-view and the RCWR Post Show covering it be our most downloaded and listened to shows that we've put out so far for the month of August. So big thank yous to all of you. Let's see if we could do it again for this weekend as we'll be covering SummerSlam. That's it. We're on a 30-plus hour break. We'll see you this Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific for the RCWR Call That Match special covering the WWE SummerSlam. Match prediction time. We'll see you this Saturday afternoon, folks. Till next time, you all be safe and you all be kind to one another. See y'all next time.